Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you calling us here today, and thank you, Secretary Nielsen, for being here and for your service to our country. I do appreciate the chairman and his acknowledgement of what happened in my district on Sunday. It really is breathtaking when you go down and see the devastation of a tornado that was nearly a mile wide and stayed on the ground for 70 miles. As the chairman said, we have 23 dead, 90 injured, and more than 100 homes just completely destroyed. This committee should take a lot of pride in the fact that we've made a difference in this country over the last 15 years. The first responders were just wonderful. Our local first responders, many of whom have gotten training through federal money, were flawless, worked their hearts out. FEMA did a great job. They were ready to go yesterday nearby, kept us informed, and I know they're going to do a great job in the rebuilding. But we make a difference in what we've done in preparing first responders around this country. I know the governor's been in touch working with EMA and the FEMA officials, and they're going to do a great job. But I appreciate your prayers as we try to start the rebuilding now that we've finished the search and recovery. With that, thank you, Secretary Nielsen, for everything your department's doing to assist the citizens of Alabama's 3rd Congressional District. This hearing comes at an important moment. There is a growing crisis at our southwest border. First, changing demographics have created extraordinary challenges for our Border Patrol. In the past, most illegal border crossers were young Mexican men, and our laws allowed us to swiftly return them back to Mexico. Today, we're seeing massive rise in the number of families and unaccompanied children from Central America and beyond. Human smugglers are exploiting the loopholes in our laws and taking advantage of our broken immigration system. Smugglers are telling vulnerable families that their child is their, quote, visa to stay in the United States if they turn themselves in at the border. The smugglers' propaganda is working. Already, family apprehensions in fiscal year 2019 are more than 800% higher than 2013. We're also seeing migrants arriving at the border in groups of record sizes. These massive groups overwhelm everything from the remote Border Patrol stations to busy ports of entry. 70 groups of more than 100 migrants each have been apprehended by the Border Patrol since October of last year, just 5 months. 70 groups, and some of these are not just 100, they're thousands. And if you're curious, 2 years ago, we only had 2 groups of more than 100 people. That's happened in a short amount of time. Migrants arriving at our border have had a long and arduous journey. The smugglers and traffickers that advertise a ticket in the United States don't care about their victims' well-being. They only care about making money. They lead these migrants into dangerous conditions without a second thought. As a result, Border Patrol projects projects a 158% increase in migrants needing medical treatment for when they crossed the border from last year. These changing migrant flows place men and women of CBP and Border Patrol in a perilous situation. Our officers are now in search and rescue teams. Paramedics are having to serve as rescue teams, paramedics, and family counselors to groups of over 100 strangers at a single time. Gangs and drug cartels are taking advantage of our porous border to bring hundreds of thousands of pounds of drugs into our country. In fiscal year 2018, CBP seized 895,000 pounds of drugs at the border. That includes approximately 2,100 pounds of fentanyl. To put that in perspective, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl are a fatal dose to a person according to the DEA. 2,135 pounds of fentanyl represents a lethal dose for 484 million people, more than the entire population of our country. That equals, if that isn't an emergency, I don't know what is. And contrary to what some say, CBP actually seizes more pounds of drugs between ports of entry than at ports of entry. Since FY 2012, CBP has seized more than 11 million pounds of drugs between ports of entry compared to only 4 million pounds at ports of entry. Mr. Chairman, we have to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and community-destroying drugs across our southwest border. We must put an end to the transnational gangs that profit off these illegal enterprises and bring crime to American streets. The only way to do that is to secure the border. And we need an all-of-the-above approach to border security that includes manpower, 21st century technology, and barriers. With this approach, we will deter human trafficking, human smugglers, and others from crossing hundreds of miles of open desert with innocent children and putting those children in grave danger. Fewer drugs will make it into the United States, saving lives and making our community safer. We know an all of the above approach works. In areas where we have built a wall system, illegal traffic has plummeted. In San Diego, illegal traffic dropped 92% after the barrier was erected. In El Paso, illegal traffic dropped 95%. And in Tucson, illegal traffic dropped 90%. Let's build on this success. Border security and keeping Americans safe used to be priorities for both our parties. I've been on this committee since, just like the chairman, since its inception. We never argued about whether barriers worked until Donald Trump wanted them. This is not rocket science. Now that many of my Democrat colleagues are going to be calling for abolition of ICE, and I don't understand that. Rather than use this hearing to score political points, I encourage my colleagues to take this opportunity to hear from the Secretary herself about the challenges at our border and what the committee can do to address the changing dynamics as I've just described. I welcome the Secretary's testimony and the excellent work she's been doing for our committee, and I thank the Chairman for the time and yield back.